From Miami to New England to Oregon to Arizona, you are tuned and locked into Trackside, the video voice of greyhound racing.
Hello, welcome to the premiere edition of Trackside. I'm Marcia Berry.
And I'm Frank Ford. We'll be your hosts for a monthly look at the top races and events surrounding greyhound racing.
And what a better way to start off our premiere show, but with the Greyhound Race of Champions, this year at Raynham Taunton.
56 greyhounds were entered in this stakes race, representing 26 racetracks throughout the country. One of the greyhounds to look for is E.T.'s Pesky. This rail runner is one of 3 greyhounds to earn 60 points in the 3 qualifying rounds. E.T.'s Pesky hails from Flagler Greyhound Track in South Florida.
Another greyhound to watch is Steve. This dog is known for muscling his way through the pack and pulling away down the stretch.
So here are the post positions for the 6th Annual Greyhound Race of Champions. Number 1, E.T.'s Pesky. Owned by Emil Tanis and trained by Dick Child, this Shore Cash Reward pup was a finalist in the Tri-Distance Stakes race this summer at Flagler. Pesky loves the inside, has a ton of early speed, and should be a major factor here. Wearing the blue blanket of Post 2, Guy Kirby. Racing for E.J. Alderson, this Kunta Kinte pup was the best middle-distance greyhound at St. Petersburg this winter. In Post 3, Cursor. Out of Rooster Cogburn and Son Eckert, this North Shore Kennel star won this year's St. Petersburg Derby. Representing Lincoln, Rhode Island, number 4, Kiowa Babs. Owned by Kay Smith and racing for David Lingle, Kiowa Babs has been a solid stakes competitor in New England this summer. Number 5, D.Q. Williams, Ace That's That. This P.L. Greer pup was a finalist in the Multnomah Derby. Wearing the yellow blanket of Post 6, Snaps Larry. Racing for Dial Enterprises, Snaps Larry won the Orange Park 3/8 Derby and the Jacksonville 7/16 Stakes race. In Post 7, Kiowa Gem, another Smith and Lingle entry. This pup was sired by Ben Cole's Sports Special and is the reigning marathon champ at Raynham Taunton. Another local favorite, number 8, Steve, racing for Otto Mamino. Steve is a Barry Lyndon pup and was a finalist in the marathon and distance championships at Raynham Taunton. Steve is perhaps the strongest finisher in this race and will be tough to keep off the board. Let's go trackside for the call.
Quickly, it's the one E.T.'s Pesky moving from the 1-0. Cursor moving up second. 5 Ace, that's that up third. Around the first turn and heading for the front stretch, it's E.T.'s Pesky out on top by 2 lengths. Cursor up second. 5 Ace, that's that. 2 Guy Kirby. Around the curtain turn, E.T.'s Pesky continues to lead. Ace, that's that. Now moving up second on the rail. 3 Cursor. Down the back stretch, E.T.'s Pesky leading throughout. 5 up second. 3. Heading into the clubhouse turn now, E.T.'s Pesky, 3-1 shot, one of the co-favorites out on top, throughout 5-8. Heading for home, it's E.T.'s Pesky, going box to wire, 8-5-2.
E.T.'s Pesky proves she's the best, taking home the $62,500 first place prize. Number 8, Steve, came from far off the pace to finish second, while number 5, Ace That's That, ran third.
The coverage of these major greyhound events is on the uprise.
And thanks to George Carney and Kelly Carney Kelly, the Race of Champions was simulcast live to tracks around the country and was also part of a live 30-minute broadcast on Channel 38 in Boston.
Well, there's one champion that didn't make the trip to the biggest race of the year. We'll be back with that closer look next on Trackside.
Greyhound USA, featuring coast-to-coast regional coverage with some of the finest columnists in the country. Other features include commentary by Tom Jicka, cartoons by Dave Olson, handicapping hints by the Wizard of Oz, a professional gambler, and much, much more. And because you're a Trackside viewer, receive your free complimentary issue by calling or writing the sports-only Greyhound newspaper, Greyhound USA.
Now at Public Stud, CM's Yankee Gold. This outstanding racer won Grade A's over 3 different distances on the Miami circuit, as well as Daytona and Palm Beach. He was the 1983 Palm Beach Grand Prix representative and a Palm Beach Derby finalist. With just a limited amount of breedings, he's already sired solid Grade A winners. JN's Miss Topper and JN's Big Fire are 2 fine examples from Multnomah. Contact the North American Greyhound Breeders Corporation and breed to CM Janky Gold.
Earlier this year, South Florida Greyhound fans had a very special treat. It is with great pleasure that Trackside is able to show you what every Greyhound enthusiast only dreams about owning. Here's this month's Trackside Closer Look. He may look like just another Greyhound, but his unrivaled determination has made Pease Rambling possibly the fastest Greyhound ever. He broke in at Dubuque Greyhound Park in June of 1986. During his climb to the Grade A ranks, James W. Paul of Delray Beach, Florida, purchased Pease Rambling from Jack Shirk for $10,000. Rambling rewarded his new owner with 9 of the 10 fastest times ever over the Dubuque course, including a new track record of 38:34. Trainer Perry Potter-Tay did an excellent job in guiding this Greyhound to superstar status at the Iowa track. Shown here running away in the Dubuque Au Revoir, Pease Rambling took a well-deserved 1.5-month vacation before finding himself racing in the warm climate of South Florida. It was here at Hollywood Greyhound Track where Pease Rambling made record-breaking history, bringing the sport of greyhound racing back into the national spotlight. Racing for Clarence and Dolores Connick, Ram, as Dolores insists you call him, took a quick liking to his new handlers and new racetrack. After winning the Hollywood inaugural, the super son of Profits Andy and Pease Skelly won his next start in box-to-wire fashion. That 15-length victory broke a 9-year-old track record with a time of 36:69.
He wants to win, he tries extremely hard, and he gave you 110 every time he ran. But it's a good feeling to see when he left the box on top, you just knew that no one was going to get him. No one. He's aggressive. It's aggressive.
Pease Rambling won his next 6 starts by a combined total of 75.5 lengths, lowering his own track record 4 more times. It was this Hollywoodian semifinal race on January 24th, 1987, that earned him the title Fastest Greyhound in the World.
I didn't even really know that he had done it. I was in the back washing his feet and cleaning him up, and somebody hollered out because I couldn't hear the announcement, well, he's done it again. And this time, it's the world's record, which I figured that'll stand for a long, long time.
Even after his world record performance, some critics said Pease Rambling couldn't run without the lead, while others claimed he couldn't run from an outside post. The Hollywoodian Championship would silence them all. In post 1 from the O'Donnell Kennel, Maggie's London. She's out of the #1 sire in the nation, Placid Ace. In post 2, another Placid Ace pup, All-American Prince Proper. In post 3, solid stakes competitor and All-American, RB's Bounty. Wearing the green blanket of post 4, a fine unruly pup, Creek Chub Darter. Number 5, Sassy Stacy. She's out of Profits Andy and Sassy Scorpio. In post 6, racing for the Tanis Kennel, GT Michael. Number 7, Pease Rambling. And rounding out the field in post 8, from the Fritz Kennel, a littermate to number 4, Creek Chub Darter, Blue Fox Pixie. Let's go trackside with announcer Howard Berg for the call.
Off! That's the 2, Prince Proper, the 1 moving up, Maggie's London with the early lead. They're right to the first, turning down on the front stretch. 1, 4, 2, 8, 3, 7, 5, and 6. The 1, Maggie's London, showing away as they race to the clubhouse turn. The 4 now, Creek Chop Darter second, the 2, Prince Proper racing third. The 7, Pease Rambling racing fourth, down the back stretch. 1, 4, 2, 7, 3, 5, 8, and 6. The 1, Maggie's London with the lead. The 4 now, Creek Chop Darter second. That's the 7 on the inside. Pease Rambling moving up there, race to the final turn. And down the strip. That's the 7, Pease Rambling moving up big track under the wire.
I never quit whipping the program. I kept rooting him in.
That's the best sporting event I've ever seen. It was like hitting a lottery ticket. It's indescribable. I'm speechless about it.
This set the stage for a match race between Pease Rambling and All-American Prince Proper. The match race occurred several weeks after the Hollywoodian, as Prince Proper had just won the Hollywood World Classic over the 5/16 mile course. The match race was over the 5/16 distance, with Prince Proper in the 3 box and Pease Rambling in the 6.
They're off! The 3 Prince Proper with the early lead. That's Pease Rambling second, moving up now. And on the front stretch, Prince Proper with the 2-length lead as they race in the clubhouse turn. Pease Rambling moving up now through the turn and down the back stretch. On his end, that's the 6 Pease Rambling moving up on the inside. The 3 Prince Proper on the outside. Rambling now with the lead as they race to the final turn and pulling away. That's Pease Rambling pulling away by 3 lengths as they head down the home stretch. Under the wire, Pease Rambling.
Pease Rambling was a racing machine. His heart and determination made him a winner even in the most painful of situations.
I would say it started out of the first turn, and then by the 3/8 box, when he picked up the dog, I thought, you know, he should be moving away faster, and by the 5/16 he should have been, about 10 on top, should have won maybe by 14 or 15 lengths, and he had 4 only and win by 3. And I knew as soon as he took that last turn home, I said, something's wrong. He broke a bone right behind the stopper joint in the ankle, which is very important for movement, and he has a screw in it. And we hope that the screw will hold the bone and calcify and come back to run. But chances are he'll be retired.
Rather than risk further injuries, Pease Rambling was officially retired at Biscayne Kennel Club less than 12 months after he broke his maiden in Dubuque. This legendary racer ended his brief career with 31 wins, 4 seconds, and 3/4 in just 41 starts. Hopefully, Pease Rambling's new stud career will be as successful as his racing career. Well, you know, Frank, there are so many great greyhounds out there, but champions like Pease Rambling only come around about 1 every 10 years or so, and they have a tremendous impact on every facet of the sport.
Yeah, we're in an era now where the entire sport can feel that impact. With a dog like Pease Rambling, all of greyhound racing receives a lot of publicity and promotion as a result, just like when a Vinny Testaverde comes along in football.
Well, it's just amazing what one greyhound can do.
And coming up, a bit of a surprise in the Wonderland Sprint Championship.
But there were no surprises in this year's Biscayne Irish American Classic. These highlights next when Trackside continues.
Imagine how exciting it would be if the winner of this race was your own racing greyhound. Texas Speed Greyhounds Incorporated sells winners. We have a large percentage of Grade A's this year, but we are not a large brokerage. President Smith Benners has given individual attention and guidance to investors since 1980. We only offer beautiful, healthy pups out of parents with extraordinary racing ability and bloodlines. Absolutely no obligation, so call for your free investment package today. The owner of our next big winner can be you.
Welcome to Anacare Supply. I'm Dr. Kenneth Aker. With 22 years of veterinary experience, I've developed an extensive understanding of the racing greyhound. As an owner of racing greyhounds, I've learned the needs of the greyhound business. For this reason, I've developed Anacare Supply. I'd like to introduce you to Eric Huss, our Director of Marketing and Sales.
We've developed Anacare Supply to satisfy the needs of the greyhound owner, breeder, and trainer. We offer antibiotics, antidiarrheals, anti-inflammatories, bandage materials, disinfectants, diuretics, electrolyte and fluid replacement, heartworm preventatives, hormones, lab supplies, liniments, ointments and topicals, shampoos and insecticides, vaccines, wormers, and many other products and supplements. All of our orders are processed the same day. This allows you to have a complete line of veterinary products at your convenience. Call us at 1-800-624-2232, extension 661. Call us today for the veterinary products you needed yesterday, tomorrow.
This summer, Kays Broadway was tearing up the track at Wonderland. Leaving his home in St. Petersburg for summer stakes race action in New England, Kays Broadway took a quick liking to the Wonderland strip as he set the 5/16 track record with a time of 30:34.
Drive into the backside, 8 on top, then 2-6, followed by the 7-4s next, 3 on the rail, then 1 well backs to 5. It is Kays Broadway, and he has good high speed, and he is just some kind of runner, pounds the best. 2 and 6 battle for second.
That track record performance was one of 12 straight wins, which made Kays Broadway the odds-on favorite in the $160,000 Wonderland Sprint Championship. In Post 1, Hondo Barbarian. This cool highway and Hondo Nutmeg pup is owned by Sumner Siegel and races for Regal Sports Enterprises. One of 2 returning Grady finalists, Hondo Barbarian ran 5th last year after being involved in a kennel fire the morning of last year's race. Number 2, Kays Broadway. Out of Nikki Finn and Kays Majorette, Kays Broadway has been made the favorite by the fans at 1-2. This brindle pup is owned by Jack Kahn and is one of 3 Pat Dalton finalists in this year's championship. Pat Dalton also races number 3, Last Fighter. This greyhound represents Lincoln, Rhode Island, where he won 12 races in 26 starts. The 3rd Pat Dalton entry is Tip Lad. This pup, out of For Real and Miss Hillary, broke in at Wonderland and has won 7 of 9 lifetime starts. Representing Raynham Taunton is Ben Cole's Judy's Dollar. Winning 3 of 4 elimination races, this Billy Cannon and SS Inky pup needs the rail to be a factor. Wearing the yellow blanket of Post 6, Prince Proper. A finalist in last year's Grady, Prince Proper is one of the best greyhounds currently racing. Earlier this year, Prince Proper won the Hollywood World Classic over the 5/16 distance for Frank Fulgenetti. In Post 7, from the Allen Rink Kennel, is Rough Scott. Representing Raynham Taunton, where he finished 25 of 29 quinellas. Rough Scott is sired by Lusky Castle, who was a major stake star in New England. This pup loves the outside and has a ton of early speed. Shipped in from Mobile, Alabama is number 8, F's Elazar. This Sees Mickey pup prefers the inside and is owned by Kirk Fries. Let's go trackside with announcer Bob Ferrillo for the call.
They're off for the Grady final. 1 down on the inside. That's Hondo Barbarian. Up on the outside goes Rough Scott. It's Rough Scott, Hondo Barbarian, Judy's Dollar, Tip Lad. Into the turn, the Candy Striper. Rough Scott has the early lead. Being challenged down on the inside by Hondo Barbarian. There goes Kays Broadway. Up on a drive. 3 lengths back to Tip Lad. Then on the inside, it's Last Fighter. It's 1, 7, 2, 4. As they make the turn, heading for pay dirt. Hondo Barbarian on a John Liberatore train. Hondo Barbarian has it all.
So Hondo Barbarian wins the William F. Grady Memorial Sprint Championship with a time of 30:94. Kays Broadway ran 2nd, while Rough Scott set the pace and finished 3rd.
Another event happening at Wonderland this summer was the 53rd running of the Wonderland Derby. The competition in the elimination rounds was fierce. Mr. John D. tied Kays Flax Revere's course record with a time of 38:53 in a first-round elimination race.
And that's Mr. John D. on top, Smooth Stone there second, then 1, followed by the 7-8, then 6, 3 comes quickly to the rail far back. Here's the 5, they race down the backside with Mr. John D. Plenty of high speed, Smooth Stone there second, then 1, 7 in the drive, way on the outside, then 8, 6, 3, and 5 can see them all. In the stretch, and Mr. John D. he may be the surprise in these trials, he's the best. Smooth Stone, the 7's 3rd.
Prince Proper, however, was the talk of New England as he aimed for back-to-back wins in the Wonderland Derby. Here now are the post positions for the 3/8 of a mile classic. In Post 1 from the Dick Andrews Kennel, Hurry Legs. She's sired by Prophet's Andy, who won the 1983 Wonderland Derby. Hurry Legs needs some speedy legs to be a factor in this one. Wearing the blue blanket of Post 2, Kiowa Babs. She's trying to become Lincoln Park's first Wonderland Derby winner. The beaten favorite of the Connecticut Derby back in June. Look for Kiowa Babs to come from far off the pace. Number 3 is Kachina Eagle. This black Aztec pup has a ton of early speed and has a 3-race win streak to boot. Kachina Eagle looks to be an early factor but prefers an outside post. In Post 4, Mr. John D. We've already seen his track record performance, so he should be a strong factor in this race. This brindle pup already has 15 wins this meet, more than any other Derby finalist. From the Ryan Kennel, number 5, Torrey Pines. This pup is out of Perceive and Devious Lady, the most successful litter this meet at Wonderland. Wearing the yellow blanket of Post 6, All-American Prince Proper. Coming into the final with a 9-race win streak, this Placid Ace pup captured the Hollywood World Classic earlier this year and is definitely the one to beat in this championship race. Number 7, Smooth Stone from the Wayne Strong Kennel. This understood pup will need some racing luck to be a factor here. And wearing the black and yellow blanket of Post 8, RB's Bounty. At 4.5, this All-American is competing in his 3rd Wonderland Derby. Let's go trackside with announcer Bob Ferrillo for the call.
They're off in the 53rd Annual Wonderland Derby. Going to the front, that's Kachina Eagle as expected. Up on the outside goes Prince Proper. It's Prince Proper, Kachina Eagle, Mr. John D. Hurry Legs, and on the outside, that's Smooth Stone, along with Kiowa Babs. RB's Bounty, and on the end, it's Torrey Pines. Into the clubhouse turn they race. It's the speedy Prince Proper, going for 2 victories in the Wonderland Derby in a row. It's the 6, 3, 4, 1, 2, 8 on the wide, 7, 5 sees them all. It's still Prince Proper along with Kachina Eagle. Coming into contention now, Kiowa Babs. Top of the lane, coming for home. Frank Fulginides, Prince Proper makes it 2 in a row. 2, 3 for the rest.
So Prince Proper captures his second Wonderland Derby, paying $3 to win. Racing second was Kiowa Babs, with Kachina Eagle holding down the show position. The time of the race was 39:22. Prince Proper is only the second dog to win back-to-back derbies. Canadian Pacific turned the trick back in 1957 and 58.
The Wonderland Derby wasn't the only middle-distance stakes event this summer, as the Biscayne Irish American Classic was making headlines here in South Florida. Here's trackside racing analyst Bob Silvers.
Over the years in South Florida racing circles, there was an expression that the best in the game race at Biscayne. And there was no better example than that than the annual running of the Irish American Classic. This year's running was the 18th running of this great greyhound race, and in past years you got to see such greyhounds as Kay's Flack, Teddy's Kim, Downing, Derek's Cadillac. The best you've ever got to see in greyhound racing ran in the Irish American Classic. And this year's Irish American Classic featured one unique thing. The Irish team had not won since 1983. And this year's race proved to be no exception to the rule. The Irish still had a tough time making the finals. 4 greyhounds, of course, qualified, but when you see this race, you can understand how good the greyhounds really were. The matchup, though, to watch is number 7, E.T.'s Chip. We like to call this dog the Chipster. This dog is dynamite with an inside post position draw. And number 8, BB's Pollyanna. And the unique feature about BB's Pollyanna, this greyhound was the only outside entered in this year's running of the Irish American Classic. Let's take a look up for the lineup for this year's 18th running. In post 1, West Park Lantana. This greyhound at the Dick Andrews Kennel drew the 1 hole, and this greyhound will always factor from an inside post. In post 2, Carrageen Lass out of the Steubenville Kennel. This greyhound came in from Wheeling Downs, West Virginia, tread by Ed Porek, a nice greyhound in a good post position draw. Number 3 is Peaceful Park. When you talk about speed merchants, Peaceful Park is certainly one of them. This greyhound, bred by Placid Ace in West Park LG, racing for the Dick Andrews Kennel. Out of the green blanket of post 4 is Maggie's London, one of the best bred greyhounds in the race. Out of Placid Ace and Printer Maggie, this out of the O'Donnell Kennel, and there's a thing we call the O'Donnell Factor. Number 5, Silent Madness. You know, earlier this season, Silent Madness upset BB's Pollyanna and E.T.'s Chip. This greyhound is pure speed, a pure speed merchant to boot. Number 6, Here Comes Dinny, one of the Dick Andrews trifecta in the race, this out of the Irish team, won the last time out heading into the finals of the Irish American Classic. In post 7, a greyhound that loves the inside post position, E.T.'s Chip. We call this one the Chipster, a great greyhound. This dog's dynamite on the inside lead. And number 8, the only outside entrant, BB's Pollyanna, 33 for 33 times in the money, and when you get a good greyhound from an outside post, it's tough to watch. Here comes Lucky. They're off. The 5 trying to break alert is Silent Madness. The 7 on the outside, E.T.'s Chip. The Chipster wanting the railroad. There's number 8, BB's Pollyanna, now trying to take command. The 6, Here Comes Denny, hits the rail and carries out the 4, Maggie's London. In the backstretch and underneath the odds boards, the 5, Silent Madness with a slight lead. BB's Pollyanna in a great move on the railroad. Number 7, E.T.'s Chip, racing third. Rounding the turn and racing down the stretch for the final time, BB's Pollyanna now taking command. The Chipster, number 7, E.T.'s Chip, racing second, tight for third. Number 3, Peaceful Park, trying to hold off the 5, Silent Madness. They finish 8, 7, and 5, a great win for BB's Pollyanna as this greyhound continues its fantastic money record.
Over the years, South Florida has distinguished itself amongst the leaders in distance racing. Biscayne Kennel Club recently hosted its Guys and Dolls $100,000 championship over the grueling marathon course. After 7 elimination trials, the top 4 guys met the top 4 dolls in the half-mile showdown. In post 1, Pedigree Maggie, racing for the Steubenville Kennel. Maggie is one of 3 of Placid Ace pups to make the final. She's got a ton of early speed and should be a factor in this one. Number 2, Ameloft. This pup turned 2 years old in July and will be hard to keep off the board. He can go to the front or come from behind. This youngster bears watching not only in this race, but in other marathon stakes races to come. From the Dick Andrews Kennel, number 3, Odd Memory. At 3.5, she's one of the oldest greyhounds in the field. A late speed threat, Odd Memory could be in trouble with the early speed demons in this field. Wearing the green blanket of post 4, Cheyenne Jean. She needs to be close to the early lead to be a factor. In post 5, the greyhound to beat, Sue St. John. Racing for the guys team, this pup is out of Placid Ace and Carry On Cindy. Carry On Cindy is also the mother of Dee Dee's Jackie, who at one point was the leading money winner in the sport. Sue St. John has won 5 of 7 elimination races. Number 6, Master of Disco. This unruly pup comes from well off the pace and looks to be in over his head. In post 7, Ready to Roar. Sired by Sports Special, this female has scored 13 of 15 quinellas this meet. And rounding out the field in post 8, Huey's Ace. This Placid Ace pup races for the Dick Andrews Kennel and appears to be outclassed here. Let's go to trackside with announcer Howard Berg for the call.
They're off. That's the 5, Sue St. John, the 1 now. Pedigree Maggie moving up on the inside with the early lead. They race into the first turn. The 5, Sue St. John now with the lead through the turn. The 1, Pedigree Maggie second to head down the front stretch. 5, 1, 6, 2, 7, 4, 8, and 3. The 5, Sue St. John with the lead as they race to the clubhouse turn. Down the back stretch, 5, 1, 2, 7, 4, 6, 3, and 8. The 5, Sue St. John with the lead as they race in the final turn. The 1, Pedigree Maggie second as they head through the turn now. 5, 1, 2, 4. 7, 3, 6, and 8. That's the 5, Sue St. John with the lead. The 1, Pedigree Maggie moving up on the outside, down the stretch, under the wire, a photo.
So the winner, a boy named Sue St. John, racing and owned by the Gulf and Bay Kennel and trained by Charlie Lusk. Placid Ace scores a quinella as his daughter, Pedigree Maggie, runs second, followed by Dick Jordan's Ameloft, who finished third.
Coming up, more racing highlights from around the country.
And we'll be back with a closer look inside a top South Florida kennel. That's next when Trackside continues.
Breed to a champion. Breed to Joey Jones. Joey Jones was one of the top sprinters on the Miami circuit, winning 58 races. He won the Flagler Sprint Championship and was Flagler's win leader in 1982. This champion, out of the great Oni Jones and Jay's Ginger Snap, is already producing grade A stars in just a few breedings. Mr. John D. is a Joey Jones pup who is shown here tying Kay's Flax Revere course record at Wonderland. For future track record holders, breed to Joey Jones.
That's the 4, DLJ's Red Streak mid-track with the lead. This 6 from entry on the outside, closing at the line of 4.
DLJ's Red Streak is one of the many fine greyhounds sired by Max Gilchrist. Gilchrist himself won grade A's at 3 different distances on the tough Miami circuit and was a finalist in 4 major stakes races. Wish V Were Here is one of the many grade A's Max Gilchrist has produced and is shown here winning the Flagler Inaugural. For more information, contact Rudy Williams in Sayre, Oklahoma.
Recently, Flagler held their tri-distance championship. After 6 elimination rounds, the top 8 greyhounds met over the middle distance Flagler course for the $25,000 first place prize. In post 1, DLJ's Red Streak. This Max Gilchrist pup loves the inside and loves Flagler. He'll be tough to beat in this race. We've already seen this pup earlier on the show, Blue Fox Pixie from the Fritz Kennel, the betting favorite in this race. This pup prefers a longer marathon course. Number 3, Florlando's RV Snowman. This greyhound prefers an outside post. In post 4, Chrismore. This rocket charged pup appears to be in over his head here. Wearing the black blanket of post 5, Sonic Mist from the DQ Williams Kennel. This well-bred pup is out of our snazzy boy and make it known. Both were stake stars here in South Florida. E.T.'s Pesky will break from the 6 box. This sure cash reward pup should be close to the early lead. Number 7, Ready to Roar from the Ellen Ingber Kennel. Out of Sports Special, Ready to Roar is coming off 2 consecutive wins, however both were over the 7/16 distance. Rounding out the field in post 8, E.T.'s Half and Half. A kennel mate to number 6, this Tanis Kennel entrant appears a bit outclassed here. Let's go trackside with announcer Howard Berg for the call.
Now off. They race in the first turn. That's the 6, E.T.'s Pesky taking the early lead. The 1, DLJ's Red Streak second. The 2, Blue Fox Pixie moving up mid-track. The 3, RV Snowman on the rail down the front stretch. 6, 1, 2, 3, 8, 5, 4, and 7. The 6, E.T.'s Pesky with the lead as they race to the clubhouse, turning down the back stretch. 6, 1, 2, 3, 8, 5, 4, and 7. The 6, E.T.'s Pesky with the lead. The 1 now, DLJ's Red Streak moving up on the outside. The 2, Blue Fox Pixie moving up. The 3, RV Snowman through the final turn. The 1, DLJ's Red Streak with the lead and pulling away down the stretch and under the wire. The winner, number 1, DLJ's Red Streak.
Winning his second major stakes title at Flagler is DLJ's Red Streak of the Kogan Kennel. Last year, he won the Flagler International Classic. Racing second with a big stretch rush was Sonic Mist, with E.T.'s Pesky setting the pace and finishing third.
One of our monthly segments here on Trackside is called The Racer's Edge. It's designed to make your visit to the track a little more enjoyable and successful. In this month's segment, Trackside racing analyst Bob Silvers takes a look at comparative time.
One of the questions we're most frequently asked is what to look for in handicapping. What is the best tip you can give us in handicapping a race and to make you, the viewer, a potential winner? The best thing I can tell you is look for comparative time. Don't look for greyhounds that came out of the fastest race or greyhounds that ran the fastest time. There's an expression in greyhound racing circles that time is good for only guys in prison. Look for things such as comparative time, greyhounds that ran on the same day against the same grade or the same type of competition. And we have a good example of this right now. We're going to show you a lineup from a race earlier this season at Flagler Greyhound Track, and 2 greyhounds came out of races that were under 37 seconds. Taking a look at the program now from earlier this meet at Flagler, number 3, E.T. Zanny, came out of a race that was running 36.63, and although this greyhound got smoked off in a very, very fast field. In post 4, Dancing Brave likewise came out of a race that was running 36.79. This greyhound ran second by 11 lengths to Pogo B, who turned in a spectacular time earlier this season. Again, look at both these greyhounds. They came in races under 37 seconds. They're off, and as you can see, number 3, E.T. Zanny out of the Tanis kennel with the early lead. E.T. Zanny racing for the same kennel that brought you E.T.'s chip. The 4, Dancing Brave out of the Severo kennel, ran second by 11 lengths the last time out, while the 1 is W.C. Star. We talked about comparative time, and you can see how these 2 greyhounds came out of a fast race the last time out and are smoking the rest of this field off on this particular race. The 1, W.C. Star, racing for the D.Q. Williams kennel, which features some of the best distance dogs in the country. Racing with the lead, the 3, again, E.T. Zanny is going to win this one quite handily. Dancing Brave racing second, the 1, W.C. Star, racing third, and they're distancing the rest of the field, but you can see how important comparative time is.
One of the most well-liked and respected trainers in all of greyhound racing is Bob Freeze. He's been in the business 26 years and has become one of the top trainers in South Florida. 3 years ago, Freeze was given the opportunity to purchase the entire Paul Jesco outfit, and that's exactly what he did.
It's quite an experience. Prior to this, as you train dogs, you work primarily with the dogs. You don't have too much of the human element involved. And then when you get into the owner's end of the business, now you have to deal with not only the dogs, but the people that own them, the people that you lease dogs from, and it becomes a whole new ball game.
Freeze currently owns 25% of the greyhounds in his operation. The greyhounds who make up the remaining 3/4 of his kennel are leased from breeders such as Premier Studmaster Bill Harris, Jerry Bratcher of Fort White, Florida, and Harry Seepersad, who raises greyhounds in Homestead, Florida.
Leasing dogs give you the opportunity to go through and look at more maidens and look at more dogs to get more quality, the kind of quality it takes to race in South Florida.
Not only does Freeze race on the tough Miami circuit year-round, but he also races at Naples Fort Myers Kennel Club, now open 10 months out of the year. With all the pressures and responsibilities involved with owning and training within his own kennel, Freeze leaves the 6:30 a.m. first turnout to his son Paul and helper Charlie Mosher. Like most kennels, first turnout is reserved for shaking beds and the overall cleanup of the kennel. Using paper bedding, Freeze makes sure there is always plenty of it to comfort his greyhounds. As a matter of preference, Freeze uses water buckets inside each crate.
It's a habit I got into years ago when I worked for Randall. I like to keep water available to the dogs at all times. So this way you can control their water intake, or add electrolytes to each individual dog if you so desire. A lot of your fights that you have in the kennel are caused by dogs kind of hogging the water bucket, and they growl, and next thing you know, you got a dog fight. This alleviates, I think, a lot of fights you have in the pen.
Perhaps that's why Freeze's greyhounds are so calm during turnouts. Once first turnout is completed, Freeze looks over the list of greyhounds that need to be worked. With the help of his assistants, the truck is loaded as 6 eager greyhounds await their turn in the sprint path. Freeze likes to take advantage of the excellent facilities at Florida Kennels. While sprinting this truckload, he recalled some of his favorites he's handled at the Hialeah compound.
A dog named Odd Enough, probably one of the fastest dogs I've ever worked with. And another dog, W.D.'s Chris, was probably not quite as fast, but is probably a harder trying dog as I've ever handled. Tell Jimmy, he won the Irish American. And he probably was probably the fastest dog I ever had.
Freeze won the Irish American again in 1981 with Laterego Lad.
That dog belonged to Troy Stiles. He was a son of Tell Jimmy, and he was also a fine greyhound.
Laterego Lad became a third-generation winner of that stake, as Tell Jimmy was an offspring of Teddy's Kim, the first Irish American winner back in 1970. After working his greyhounds, Freeze then prepares that evening's racers for the track. Once the morning weight is checked, Freeze places the racer on the grooming bench. Since it's important that the greyhound puts out his best effort on the racetrack, Freeze makes sure his team is physically fit and sound when they leave the kennel. The race day inspection begins with the greyhound's ears. Making sure the ears are clean and free of infections, Freeze moves on to the toes. His preventative maintenance includes nail clipping and soaking the greyhound's feet in a mixture of warm water, beagle oil, and absorbine. This solution helps keep the toes free from infection and helps heal the toes that might be sore. Since the greyhound runs so hard, Freeze checks the shoulders and ankles, followed by the hindquarters for soreness. Keeping the greyhound free from muscle soreness helps prevent blowing a turn or running a bad race. Freeze feels a lot of hock injuries can be avoided by examining the hock. If he believes a tendon is sore, Freeze will rest that greyhound for a few weeks. A brief rest always preferable to a career-ending injury. Freeze goes over all his greyhounds with a fine-tooth comb. Once his seal of approval is given, the greyhound is placed back in its crate, waiting for the trip to the track later that evening. Following the afternoon turnout, Freeze feeds his hungry hounds. While he doesn't feel the afternoon chow time makes a difference in a greyhound's performance, it does leave the mornings free to work and bench his racers. It is always important that any athlete stay on a well-balanced and nutritious diet. The racing greyhound is no exception. With 45 greyhounds in his kennel, Freeze's gourmet meal includes 55 pounds of meat, turnip greens, and electrolytes. On days where the meat is somewhat fatty, Freeze adds V8 juice and vinegar to the diet. This mixture helps cut down the fat. On days when the meat is lean, Freeze will use buttermilk instead. Bacifirm is then added in case there is bacteria in the meat. Honey and garlic powder are mixed in before 7 pans of jazz meal and kennel biscuit are added to finalize the ingredients. Freeze thoroughly mixes the feed to ensure each dog gets the proper percentage of the high-protein diet. Now, since the greyhound must stay within 1.5 pounds of its set racing weight, Freeze consults a list of all the greyhound's weights in his kennel. He can then add or drop weight from the racer by increasing or decreasing the amount of food he places in the feed pan. In addition to the high-protein diets, Freeze gives his greyhounds vitamin C and potassium pills, plus Val Blood tonic syrup to complete this well-rounded meal. The best compliment given to any kennel chef is an empty plate licked clean. Judging by the way these pans are left, Freeze gets grade A ranking from his greyhounds. It took this particular greyhound 13 seconds to devour her meal. Now, if she runs as fast as she eats, Bob Freeze will have one heck of a greyhound.
But I just wonder if he uses all natural ingredients. That's what I want to know.
Never know. Coming up, Dr. John D. on the Health Beat examines hock injuries. That's next on Trackside. It's as simple as 1, 2, 3 to subscribe to Trackside. All you need to do is send us your name, address, and phone number. Tell us if you require VHS or beta and enclose a check for $180 for a full 1-year subscription. That's only $12.50 per tape plus $2.50 postage and handling. Subscribe to Trackside, the video voice of Greyhound Racing.
Hello, I'm a TV commercial, and he's a print ad. And we both like to tell you about our race cars. I can make mine go round and round, like this. How about yours? Mine sounds like a race car. What's yours sound like? Yep, I certainly like my race car. He doesn't seem to have too much to say about his.
This is Temper Tantrum in the final round of the Dubuque Kennel Medley Championship. And this is Temper Tantrum racing down the stretch on her way to winning the Dubuque Kennel Medley Championship. See what television can do for you. Contact Perfectivision for all your advertising needs. Perhaps the most devastating of injuries a racing greyhound can receive is a hock injury. Greyhound Racing's #1 veterinarian, Dr. John D., takes a closer look at this injury. Here's his report on the Health Beat.
The racing greyhound is a high-speed performance individual that has been selectively bred and trained to race at high speeds over a very short distance. To this end, the greyhound has developed physiological and anatomical parameters to aid in the course of performing the set task of high-speed racing. In the process of doing this, the greyhound has developed an increased number of red blood cells that are larger, a heart that is somewhat larger, a stroke volume of the heart that is significantly increased, and a increased muscle to total body weight ratio. And this is required because we need large muscles to gain the speed and the power that we need for the course of racing. One of the times that the greyhound is most prone to injury is while rounding the bends. It is at this time that the right or outside or off hind limb is under the greatest stress. And it's also at this time that we will see injuries of that limb. When we refer to injuries of the hock of the racing greyhound, we are referring to this area right here, which is a composite area of several bones. This area is analogous or similar to our ankle. If we look at a frontal or AP view of the hock of the racing greyhound, as we have here on the picture on your right, we can see that the central tarsal bone, which is located right here, is in intimate contact and articulates with all of the other tarsal bones. It is when the greyhound rounds the turns that the central tarsal bone is under the greatest stress. If we look at an AP radiograph of the hock of a racing dog, such as depicted on your left, we can see the outline of the central tarsal bone as it articulates with the other tarsal bones. If you contrast the radiograph on your left to the radiograph that is on your right, you can readily see a fracture line in the central tarsal bone. Because of the compressive forces that are placed on this bone, we find that we have a large displaced medial fragment here and a smaller dorsally displaced fragment here. At the time of this injury, we will oftentimes see some significant collapse of the hock. If we could get a bird's eye view of the hock that has an injured or fractured central tarsal bone, it would appear much as the schematic on your left would appear, in that this would represent the central tarsal bone and this would represent the fracture down the central portion. If you compare this schematic to the radiograph on your right, you can see the significant displacement of the medial and dorsal fragments, the area of the fracture being depicted by the solid curved arrow. In addition, you will see other small fractures that are very subtle that are depicted by the smaller arrows to your left. The open arrow represents a fissure fracture of the fourth tarsal bone, and the smaller solid arrow represents an avulsion fracture of one of the metatarsals. As you can see by the radiograph on your left, in the AP projection, we have an example of an individual that has sustained numerous injuries to the tarsus, specifically a fracture of the central tarsal bone as depicted by the numeral 1, a fissure fracture of the fourth tarsal bone as depicted by 2, an avulsion fracture of one of the metatarsals as depicted by the 3, and a fracture of the very small second tarsal bone as depicted by 4. Historically, significant or severe injuries to the central tarsal bone may very well have been the end of a racing career. But with the advent of current equipment and techniques, individuals like this can oftentimes be salvaged either to return to racing or for breeding purposes or as a comfortable pet. The radiograph on your right shows the 30-day follow-up post-operative radiograph on this particular patient. And this was repaired with 3 screws that were utilized to give us rigid internal fixation, and this was the follow-up film on a dog called Deedee's Nelson. Concluding this month's Health Beat segment, I'm Dr. John D. for Trackside.
You know, over the years, Dr. John D. has received worldwide recognition for his performance as a veterinarian, and we're very pleased to have him a part of Trackside.
We certainly are. And coming up, we'll see how Dr. D's talents helped out Deedee's Nelson. That's next on Trackside.
Imagine how exciting it would be if the winner of this race was your own racing greyhound. Texas Speed Greyhounds Incorporated sells winners. We have a large percentage of grade A's this year, but we are not a large brokerage. President Smith Benners has given individual attention and guidance to investors since 1980. We only offer beautiful, healthy pups out of pairs with extraordinary racing ability and bloodlines. Absolutely no obligation, so call for your free investment package today. The owner of our next big winner can be you.
A rather innovative stakes race took place this summer at the Mile High Kennel Club in Colorado. 7 of the best greyhounds in America were invited to compete against the fastest greyhound in Colorado. Here are the post positions for the $50,000 Stroze Invitational. Wearing the red blanket of Post 1, John Bugner's Homespun Rowdy. This 2-time All-American is the sport's leading money winner, earning nearly $300,000 at 5 years of age. This greyhound out of Oshkosh Champ and Homespun alike is the oldest in the field. Number 2, Deedee's Nelson. We've already seen the x-rays of his broken hock, and isn't it amazing how this greyhound continues to compete with the finest racers in the country. In Post 3, Say You from the Fickett Racing Kennel. This dark rumor pup holds Southland's Arkansas course track record. Say You loves the inside and should be a factor here. Breaking from the 4 box, the 5/16 world record holder Pro Stormer. Racing for Darby Henry, this pup represents Council Bluff in Iowa. Number 5, Benji Speedboat. What a career this greyhound has had. He was captain of the 1986 All-American team and won the 1986 Greyhound Race of Champions. Speedboat represents Multnomah Kennel Club in Oregon. Wearing the yellow blanket of Post 6, Frontier Outlaw. The local favorite, this lead kennel entry has won 10 of 16 starts this meet at Mile High. From Sarasota, number 7, Bees Easy Amos. This Max Dutchmaster pup has good early speed but likes the rail. In Post 8 from Mile High, Amarillo Cajun. This pup out of Straight Through and Gay Speedster races for Darrell Brummage. Amarillo likes the outside and could be an early threat here. Let's go Trackside for the call.
And they're off. At the break, your early leader, number 2, Deedee's Nelson, followed by number 7, Bees Easy Amos. Number 8, Amarillo Cajun on the outside, 6, 1, and 3 on the rail. Through the first turn, number 2, Deedee's Nelson is your leader, followed by number 6, Frontier Outlaw, and 8, Amarillo Cajun on the outside. 3, Say You makes a strong move on the rail, but it's 2, Deedee's Nelson with about a 3-length lead. It's 2, 6 as they come to the wire, 3 and 8 battling it out for the show position.
What a remarkable greyhound. Deedee's Nelson of the Gulf and Bay Kennel captures the Stroze All-American Invitational. Deedee's Nelson is better than ever, a credit to the talents of Dr. D and Deedee's Nelson. Number 6, Frontier Outlaw ran second, with number 3, Say You, coming in for third.
Hard work and dedication continue to be necessities in the raising of greyhounds. As Trackside's Bob Silvers found out, the backbone of the growing sport of greyhound racing is the breeding farm.
Located 20 miles west of the Florida Turnpike, the North American Greyhound Breeders Corporation has set up shop on Fox Brown Road in Indiantown, Florida. The corporation is owned by the very personable Denny Dubuque of nearby Palm Beach. Luis Pinero is the company vice president and oversees the day-to-day racing kennel and farm operation. In fact, Pinero was in Sarasota looking after their racing kennel when our cameras visited the farm. Managing this 76-acre farm is the very talented Millard Meeks. Mrs. Duboff purchased the farm, formerly known as CM's Ranch, from Claudia Evans 1 year ago.
I had been going to the racetrack for 15 years. Never thought of owning a dog, but I needed some excitement in my life, I guess. I had lost my husband and my son and mother, and I wanted something to do. I didn't want to play cards every day or go shopping every day, and that's how I actually got into it. I told them when I bought the dogs that I had two requisites, a good bloodline, and I wanted them to be able to race immediately. Fortunately, I came out with two very good dogs. They're just marvelous. In fact, they're here, the two of them right in there, Lady Lawton and Fancy Doll. And they're from their father was president-elect.
5 years after buying her first two greyhounds, Mrs. Dubuque is the proud owner of more than 220 greyhounds, 180 of which are here on the farm.
How do I feel toward them? It's like they're my children. They're so adorable. I'd like to get up at least once a week. I don't always make it, but sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. You never know.
When she visits the farm, Mrs. Dubuque enjoys playing with her young pups and watches them grow into fast, mature racers. Farm manager Millard Meeks sees to it that all the greyhounds are trained properly. He gives them tons of TLC, as well as the best possible opportunity to make the racetrack. With 10 years of experience in the greyhound industry, Meeks is extremely enthusiastic with his role in the operation.
This is my life. I love it out here. I love the dogs. And you got a great bunch of people to work with, and the owners are just super people. They're very cooperative, and they bend over backwards to help you.
As is the case with most jobs in the greyhound industry, managing a breeding farm is a 7-day-a-week endeavor. Meeks explains that 2 months after this female whelps her pups, the puppies will be placed outside in the pens to begin their training.
Well, we use no live lures at all out here. We start them out from the time they're very little, working with a dummy, as we call a funny bunny. And it's just a little piece of cloth and stuff that we work with, so that it becomes a game to them. And by the time that they've played with this enough and ran around the track in the whirligig and the jackalope, they know it's a game, and they're going to chase it. So we use no live lures at all. We don't believe in them.
As the puppies grow and mature, they also become aggressive. Meeks has given this brindle pup the nickname Gremlin and has become one of his favorites on the farm.
He'll do a backflip to get this move.
Boy, he missed the sucker. Oh, he's in right there.
Let go, Gremlin.
He's got it. He's done it again. Son of a gun. He fought his way right through. Listen, man, we gotta do this thing.
As the greyhounds get bigger, they're placed into longer runs.
They stay in the outside pens and the short pens until they're 4 months old. Then they move to the 300-foot runs, and this way they can go up and down the runs, and they build their muscles, and they develop, into strong, athletic dogs. At approximately 10 months old, they start the jackalope training. That's the training that they run on a 1,000-foot line, and they chase a lure.
For these pups out of Sports Review, Kingsford and resident sire My Sam, it marked their first time training with the jackalope. Meeks and his assistant keep a close watch on the pups' performances as each effort is logged. Not all the pups understand what is expected of them on their initial try. Meeks knows right away who'll need to spend some extra time with. On the other hand, Meeks is extremely enthusiastic and pleased with the rest of his jackalope students.
That dog's fast. Well, I can tell by the way I'm running the lure how fast the dog is.
With the jackalope action taking place in the middle of the farm, the onlookers get plenty of exercise themselves. For the younger pups, they also get a good idea of what they'll be expected to do in the months ahead. After 5 or 6 times training with the jackalope, Meeks takes his pups to the whirligig.
This teaches the dog, as we call it, to run in circles, but it's actually teaching them to change leads. And what I mean by that is the natural tendency for the greyhound is for them to run with their left foot forward and his right foot back. As they hit a curve, they have to change and put their right foot forward. If they don't, the centrifugal force will push them out of the curve. And that's what we call blowing the turn. So you take them around the whirligig about 5 or 6 times to make sure they're running the curves.
When the greyhounds reach 13 months of age, they are ready to begin schooling. While his assistants load up the schoolers, Meeks prepares the lure at the quarter-mile track, which is located on the farm. For these pups out of Unruly and Just Fast, it was their second time on the schooling track.
We start them out in a 3/16 box, make sure they're running around the track, and then we gradually move them back to the 5/16. They run on the training track approximately 3 months, and then they're ready to be sent for the schooling races at whatever kennel club we're running at. And we hope they all make the track.
And over the years, Meeks has been quite successful. C.E. Sabrina was a finalist in the $100,000 Flagler Super Marathon Championship, and C.E.'s Easy Way was a 5-time Derby finalist. And then there is Our Wood.
About 4 years ago, he won the puppy stakes at Palm Beach, and he broke his leg and had to have 3 pins placed in his leg. He came back and won the inaugural year before last. He was the oldest dog to ever win the inaugural. Those are some of my favorite, but I think they're all my favorite because I love every one of them.
As more states approve greyhound racing, the demand for quality greyhounds is on the rise. With the spirit and enthusiasm demonstrated by the folks at the North American Greyhound Breeders Corporation, the public can feel at ease that the supply will easily meet the demand. Bob Silver's Trackside, Indiantown.
Coming up, the Dubuque Kennel Medley Championship.
And a preview of next month's issue of Trackside. We'll be right back.
Now at Public Stud, CM's Yankee Gold. This outstanding racer won Grade A's over 3 different distances on the Miami circuit, as well as Daytona and Palm Beach. He was the 1983 Palm Beach Grand Prix representative and a Palm Beach Derby finalist. With just a limited amount of breedings, he's already sired solid Grade A winners. JN's Miss Topper and JN's Big Fire are 2 fine examples from Multnomah. Contact the North American Greyhound Breeders Corporation and breed to CM's Yankee Gold.
The top 2 kennels at Dubuque Greyhound Park dominate the stakes action there. Buckskin Billy of the Hughes Kennel is shown here going box to wire in the Kings and Queens Stake Championship. Buckskin Billy is out of B.B. Crooktail and S.S. Miss. Miami fans remember B.B. Crooktail, who raced for the D.Q. Williams Kennel in many stakes races just a few years ago.
Twisted Boat running 3rd. Farther back to Dutch Kingston. Case Pimento running 5th. They're at the top of the turn. Buckskin Billy starts to pull away now as they come around the turn and head for home. They're in the stretch. Buckskin Billy in the lead.
The Hughes Kennel is second behind Jack Shirk in the Dubuque Kennel standings. Temper Tantrum wrapped up the Kennel Medley Championship for Shirk with this victory over the long Hawkeye course. Shirk also won heats over the 5/16 distance and the middle distance Dubuque course. During the medley, the Vasco Kennel's Game Rita set a new track record over the 3/16 mile course with a time of 18:51. Let's watch number 2, Temper Tantrum, come from behind to ice the medley championship for Shirk.
Now for 3rd. Out of the turn and down the backstretch. 1 on the move for the lead. 7 right there, a close second. 5 and 3rd, followed by 2, 3, 8, 6 and 4. At the top of the far turn, 1 with the lead. 5 is in second and 7 in 3rd. As they round the far turn, they'll head down the stretch. 5 in the lead, but it's anybody's race.
The 6th annual $30,000 Connecticut Oaks Championship took place earlier this summer at Plainfield Greyhound Park. Here are the post positions for this year's Connecticut Oaks Championship. Wearing the red blanket of post 1, Pro Stormer. This pup out of C's Mickey and Kaya's Witch holds the 5/16 world record of 29.65 set at Council Bluffs in Iowa. Look for this rail runner to be a major factor in this race. Number 2, Slick's Godiva. This downing pup is the oldest in the field and prefers an outside post. From the Pat Dalton Kennel, Sailing Legend. This greyhound was sent in from Lincoln, Rhode Island and also prefers the outside route. Number 4, Lady Shamu. This bold footprint pup is the youngest in the field. Lady Shamu has won 6 of 9 starts at Plainfield and should be a factor here. Wearing the black blanket of post 5, Ribbons and Rubies. Racing for Ben Cole, this Raynham Invader has scored 2 wins in 1 second in the 3 elimination rounds. In post 6, Plainfield's own Sparklin' Tina. She represents Terry Creek's number 1 kennel at Plainfield. Number 7, Zemi. This fine Placidace pup is a kennel mate to number 4, racing for the Carter Kelly Kennel. Rounding out the field in post 8, Indio Amber, one of the best greyhounds this meet at Plainfield. Indio Amber recently won the Connecticut Derby and should be a major factor here.
And now they're off. And taken out with the early leaders of 4, then it's a 6-8 to 1-7-5 to 2-3. Into the clubhouse turn to 4, tries to shut the 8 off. The 1 grabs the rail, the 6-7, the gap to the 2-5-3. Down the backstretch as they hit into the far turns to 4 with the lead, the 4, Lady Shamu. Then it's the 1 on the rail, the 1 Pro Stormer, the 8, Indio Amber. They come out of the turn to make their way on home 4. Then it's the 1 on the inside, the 8, 6, 7, 5. They make their way to the wire. It's the red blanket on top, Pro Stormer.
So Pro Stormer takes the crown for the Darby Henry Kennel. Lady Shamu ran second with Indio Amber third.
Coming up on next month's issue of Trackside, we'll have a look at the great race at Seabrook. Then we'll visit Rick Floyd of the Fritz Kennel, and we'll look into the success of Placid Ace, the number 1 sire in the nation. Well, as you know, Marcia, Placidace and his pups have made quite a name for themselves here at Flagler Greyhound Track, and we'd like to thank Flagler for letting us be their guest tonight in the clubhouse for our premiere edition of Trackside.
We sure do, Frank. Well, that does it for this month's edition of Trackside, the video voice of Greyhound racing. I'm Marcia Berry.
And I'm Frank Ford. Thanks for joining us. We'll be looking forward to seeing you next month on Trackside. So long.
Bye-bye.
Second, that's the 7 on the inside. Pete's rail